Hello YouTube. Well, today I am visiting the Cole Family Land Transportation Museum here in Maine, just outside of Bangor, and it's dedicated to the land transportation used in Maine as well as the military. So let's go on inside and take a look. So can anybody guess what the function of this machine is? Let me get a little better view. It's got like a conveyor that's almost like a series of steps, and that runs a pulley, and in this case it's hooked up to a grinder. So anybody got any ideas? Put them in the comments below. I know what this is. I've seen them. But let me know what you think. When I was a child, I had a red one of these, and I remember seeing home movies of my parents that had a New Year's Eve party, and some of the adults, the fathers of course, had a race around in our basement with mine and my brother's tricycle. So how about a 1962 Polaris Snow Traveler? I got quite a collection of toys and bicycles, but this one, I call it a bone shaker. It was probably made in 1840s. It's direct drive to the front wheels, wooden wheels, steel rims, not a whole lot of suspension there. I've got a few hearses here. This one, 1866. Obviously horse-drawn, and you can see the casket inside. Here's another horse-drawn one from 1895, as well as a more modern hearse for, let's say, 1970 Cadillac. Always wanted a hearse. I know a couple of people who have them. They've pretty much disappeared from the highways. I haven't seen them since I was a kid. We used to love seeing these things. There was a shaving cream company called Burma Shave, and their way of advertising was along the road there would be these red signs spaced out probably a quarter or a tenth of a mile apart. And so let's just see what this one says. It said, past schoolhouses, take it slow, let the little shavers grow. And it always ended with Burma Shave. Very unique kind of advertising that I'm sorry to see have disappeared. Like the 73 Beetle, I learned in a 63 Beetle, and in those 10 years, the one thing that always found interesting, spare tires right up here in the front, but this little hose goes up and pressurizes the windshield washer. So if you didn't keep pumping up the tire, you would not be able to have the windshield washer, and you might end up with a flat spare. And we've seen something like this before. A 1925 Chango Equipment Company of Norwich, New York, built this tent camper. So, a little Coleman stove up there, double beds at either side, storage not much different than the campers that are around today. I'm not sure if you'd heard me speak of Corduroy Road. I think I did in the one at Genesee Country Museum. But this is what it would have looked like. Lots and lots of logs to spread the weight over, and especially through somewhat wet and swampy ground, it would make it easier to get by. You wouldn't be sinking up axle deep. So for those interested in different braking systems, this one is a mechanical one. It's basically got a band that goes around with a heavy canvas kind of liner, and when you push on the brake pedal it would squeeze down on it. I have a 57 Chevy step van that had this type of emergency brake around a disc on the drive shaft. I'm glad I never had to use it. Now this is a drum brakes, so when I step on the pedal you can see that the cylinder pushes the brake shoes out on the inside of the brake drum. And then air brakes, you got the air cylinder. It's going to run, this is a slack adjuster, and it turns the S-cam in there, and as you can watch, see how it turns the S-cam and pushes the brake pads out. If you look at one of the video where I did brakes, I got a real good view of that on my bus. So I kid about being old, but I remember when milk got delivered in milk trucks like this, refrigerated area in the back. It came in glass bottles, and my one memory that really stands out is the first time I learned how to ride a bicycle. Mom was teaching me. She told me how to pedal, how to steer. She neglected to tell me how the brakes worked. And I'm riding along out of control, across the yard, into the other side of the milk truck and the neighbor's driveway. The milkman thought he had hit me. My mom explained, no, it was more like I hit him. There was no damage done. And I got a quick lesson in how bicycle brakes work. So any of you out there that are old hippies like me, you might remember a band that had Stephen Stills in it. I think Crosby was in it too, but the name of the band was Buffalo Springfield. Now I know where they got the name. So some pretty massive chainsaws and early designs. Some of them are a bit scary. That one's a little scary, but none so much as the Sally saw. And this, the engine could not be turned, but the blade could be turned, so you could have it sideways like this for felling the trees, and turn it the other way for cutting it up. But I can't imagine what you would do with a tree that was bigger than that area. So as always, I always find a bus. And this one is a 1933 model 712, and it was made by Yellow Coach, which later was sold to GMC. It's got a 4-speed transmission and a 100 horsepower engine, 6-cylinder, little jump seat right here. Pretty cool. Part of me is torn to wouldn't this be a great schoolie RV, and the other part was I like it restored just the way it is. So one corner of the museum is dedicated to military vehicles, and this is a Ford Jeep. It was a GPW. The W stands for the Willys modifications, and Willys overland motors and Ford-made Jeeps for the war. They made them so that the parts were interchangeable between the two, which makes a heck of a lot of sense. And it would go, let's see, it would run for 100 hours straight. It was, let's see, it would run up to 60 miles an hour, climb a 40-degree slope, turn around in a 30-foot circle, and tilt up to 50 degrees either side without tipping over. So, would love to have one of these. And then, of course, you could always be hauling the trailer behind you. And they have quite a collection of military gear from World War II, including maybe a Hitler Youth flag and the Luftwaffe dagger, and you name it. Also rifles and uniforms, as well as the pistols. And they also, in the middle here, have got a 3/4 ton vehicle. And this one is set up as a command car. It could also have been used as an ambulance or a light truck or a weapons carrier. So those people interested in World War II history, and you keep hearing about the German 88s, that's a shell from one. And you can see why that thing could do some damage and was pretty much feared by the Allies. So this is the first time I've actually seen a half-track outside of movies. And this is designed to carry 13 men. You got the driver, squad leader, assistant squad leader up front, 5 men on either side in the back, and this one happens to have a 50 caliber mounted on it. They would hang cases of food, duffel bags and stuff on the sides that help protect them from small weapons fire. And what was interesting is you had a couple options on the front. One was to have a roller like this, and that would allow it to push down small trees without damaging the vehicle. They could also roll up out of ditches on that, and I like the shutter to protect the radiator. There's something I didn't know, is that after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the government pulled all of the currency, American currency, out of the islands and printed up special bills. If you look close, you can see Hawaii written on the side, and if we come around the back, it's in big letters across. That way, if the Japanese ever captured the islands, they could make those bills null and void, and it wouldn't do them any good. So this diesel locomotive was one of 8 built in 1949, and it was in service for 31 years. And in that time, it was basically a switch engine, but it was used out on the main line. In those 31 years, it covered 1.6 million miles. And each of the wheels is powered, has its own electric motor, and it's powered by a 1,500 horsepower diesel engine that would be, in the wintertime, would be running 24/7 to keep the coolant running and keep things freed up, because the coolant kept the diesel fuel from gelling. It would heat the diesel up, and it would use, when it was running at 65 miles an hour, it would use 167 gallons of diesel fuel an hour. So it's more gallons per mile than it is miles per gallon. Guessing that's going to conclude my visit here to the Land Transportation Museum. And if you ever get a chance, come on up here. It's senior discount was like $5. I think an adult $6 to get in, and there is way more here than I showed you. So, and just going to leave you with this little thought: is wouldn't you like to be paying 16.9 for gas now?